In this video, I'll be showing you how to build the best gaming PC you can put together for under $2,000 right now. I'll be showing you all the parts I've picked for this build and providing a couple of alternative choices, showing you how to put it together from start right through to finish and looking at performance later, testing everything from Battlefield 2042 and Apex Legends to Forza Horizon 5, Fortnite and many more. Let's do this. The Asus RTX 3050 Dual is restocked and reloaded over at Ebuyer.com and currently available for a fantastic price point. If you're looking to get gaming at 1080p high settings in 2022, look no further than Asus's range of restocked and reloaded GPUs now available at Ebuyer.com, linked in the description below. Let's kick things off by diving through as much of the build outside of the case as possible, and we'll deal with the chassis, the GPU, a little bit later. As always, you can use the timestamps below to skim through the video as you wish, but stick with me. I hope I'll make your time a little bit worthwhile. Now, the motherboard for this build is of course a Z690 design. This is MSI's Z690 Force Wi-Fi. This is MSI's sort of lightest colour scheme design when it comes to Z690, with this nice very light silver and white accent pieces all over the board. Once we've added in some white memory and a white water block, we're going to cover most of the black PCB, which aesthetically is going to look absolutely spot on. For this build, I have of course gone for that Z690 platform and the Intel 12th gen architecture. I'll be installing into it our CPU, and here you've got two choices. If you're just looking to game, the i5-12600K would be my recommendation, as contrary to popular belief, it won't be bottlenecking our GPU choice. And if you're looking to do some more editing, strenuous tasks, and want something with a bit more oomph, the i7-12700K would be my bet. Either will work fine, and I'll link both with latest pricing and availability down in the description below. Intel really have smashed it out the park with 12th gen. There's simply nothing else that comes close right now. Though that does look potentially set to change with AMD Ryzen 7000, which should be hitting the market very soon. These new Intel socket covers are so much more fiddly than the last generation. It always feels like you're forcing it a bit more than you used to have to. So be careful, as you can bend pins on these boards very easily. I've learnt that one the hard way. Right, while we're here, we're also going to pop in our RAM or memory. I've of course gone for a DDR5 design motherboard today. I think it's worth the extra cash at these budgets. If you're going for a lower end, more entry level 12th gen build, pick up a DDR4 design, something we've talked about in great detail over on our website, where we compared the B660 and Z690 chipsets and all the implications that has on things like your memory. This is a 32GB kit. 32 gigs is the ideal amount for gaming nowadays. I'd say we moved away from 16GB being the benchmark with 30 series. A generation of cards so good that you really do need the best memory nowadays in the right capacities to make the most of these GPUs. Slide your RAM into place and it should click in nice and easily. If you're wondering which way around it goes, the Vengeance label should be facing outwards, away from your CPU, that way away from the motherboard. Apply some pressure and this lovely white brand new Vengeance RGB kit, of course there's DDR5, is installed and looking fantastic. Now there is one more thing we can do outside of the case before we go ahead and take a look at our next few components, and that's install the storage for this build. I've picked up a 1TB Seagate FireCuda 530 for one key reason. It's the best Gen 4 NVMe drive you can buy. Full stop. There's no ifs, there's no buts. The speeds are unrivaled, 7GB a second on the read and the write. Check out these Crystal Disk Mark tests, bit of a tongue twister, that we ran the other week. We've reviewed the drive, we're so happy with it. The only thing really that comes close right now is the Samsung 980 Pro, but even then, I think the FireCuda 530 is probably my better pick. Now for this stage of the build, you need to ditch your large screwdriver and swap it out for a teeny tiny derivative. The SSD in this build is installed into our top slot and resides under this handy little cover. The Gen 4 drives, if you don't know, do run a bit hotter given their higher speeds, and that means that these thermal pads and thermal dissipators are going to do a great job of keeping the drive nice and chilly, and more importantly, getting that most performance possible all of the time. If we pop the drive into place, use this cool toolless little mechanism to secure it down, and then of course finish things off by adding back in our M.2 heatsink, a little something like so. This is also going to contribute to a much cleaner looking aesthetic in your build, as if you go for a drive with a heatsink pre-installed, you have to remove this, and I think that can look just a bit naff. What we're going to move on to then is the case for this system. We can move our motherboard assembly into the chassis of choice, which is the Corsair iQ 4000D Airflow QL Edition. Now, Corsair's 4000 lineup of cases have been pretty popular. We've been using them for a little while, but there was always one thing I wished Corsair made, and that was an airflow version of the case with their high-end QL RGB fans. And that's exactly what they've done. In fact, they've actually gone even further. Those of you familiar with the old white design will know that it was covered in these grey accents, which didn't look awful, but if you want to build a white system, they're just a little bit inconvenient. They've gone ahead and also ditched these in this derivative, which I really like to see. This case is a bit more pricey than the original 4000D or 4000X for that matter, but you get a whopping $100 worth of fans included as standard. Corsair QLs look absolutely sick, and I'm really glad to see that Corsair have gone and included them in this chassis. I believe this is available with normal retailers, but also on the Corsair web store, and I'll link that in the description below as well. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and remove our glass side panel by unscrewing these thumb screws, hopefully. Aha, there we go. And I'm going to do the same on the back of the case as well. Now, with this being a Corsair case, you do of course get a few nice handy little add-ons, including an RGB hub, super useful to have, and universally supports the Corsair fans of course. We've got our 2.5-inch toolless SSD mounting points here as well, with thumb screws on each. PSU shield, nice code management channels, and of course Velcro cable ties included as standard, with a few extras in the box as well, so you truly have got no excuse for poor cable management. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the case down flat, spin the case around, and drop our motherboard into place. Because it's got a pre-installed I/O shield, we haven't got to worry about that, and an ATX motherboard in an ATX case means all our standoffs are going to be kosher too. Drop the board in, screw it down, and we're all good to go. Once the motherboard's in, we can then go ahead and take a look at our CPU cooler. Now, this right here is NZXT's Kraken Z73. I could have gone for a white cooler for this build from Corsair, for example, and really tied up our IQ theme. But NZXT have been doing some great stuff recently, and I think this cooler in particular, with its screen and just how they've actually gone ahead and powder coated it in white, will look better. Let me explain. As you can see here, NZXT have gone for this fully white matte finish that I think looks gorgeous, and the water block as well is really nice. The round kind of white finish just makes it feel to me that little bit more sleek, and of course it supports out the box our Intel 12th gen processor. What I'm going to do is take the front panel off the case, pop the radiator in behind these fans at the front, then remove the existing fan screws and replace them with some long radiator screws which go right the way through the fans into the cooler, fastening it into place. After I've done that, I can add in the back plate to the rear of the motherboard, pop the cooler on top, secure it down with our thumb screws and a screwdriver, and in theory after that point we should be good to go, and hopefully it's going to look absolutely perfect. With the cooler in and looking good, we can then go ahead and install the GPU. Now I've gone ahead and picked up the MSI Supremex RTX 3080. Some of you may be thinking, James, isn't there a 4080 rumoured to be landing soon? The honest answer is, I know as much as you guys. Am I expecting Nvidia to bring something out in the near future? Probably. And if you're watching this video and that's already happened, maybe look at that, and if it's any good, replace this with the 4080 or whatever Nvidia go ahead and call it. But it does also present an opportunity for the more budget savvy gamer, whereby you might be able to pick up a 3080 either now on the used market or very shortly once those new cards drop for a very reasonable price point. The 3080 12 gig card has got plenty of video memory and is going to make sure you can blast through all the latest titles at 4K with ease, or of course at 1440p with very high frame rates. Now I have tested this and I believe there should be just a couple of millimeters to spare when we go ahead and install the GPU. It's going to be tight, but it should in theory fit. So let's slide that in. That's an okay start. That's got slightly less okay now. Right, so yes, I think that's working. It's very tight. Boom, it's in. Is it a tight squeeze? Yes. Does it match perfectly with our colour scheme and look absolutely sick? Also, yes. All we need to do then to round things off is just to go ahead and secure the GPU in with a couple of screws. One on the middle and then one further up to the top, like so. Nice and tight on this one here. Lovely jubbly. To round things off, what I'm then going to go ahead and do is pop in the power supply. I've picked up Corsair's RM850X for this build and also add in some easy DIY easy DIY fab cable extensions, custom cables with nice cable combs to make the whole thing look just that little bit better. Once all of that is finished, we can then go ahead and boot the system up for the very first time, check out the performance, but first, how good it looks in the only way we know how. It's time, of course, for a signature GeekaWhat montage. When it comes to performance, you'd expect a system costing this much money to absolutely smash it when it came to 1080p, 1440p and 4K gaming. And I'm glad to report that's exactly what the build does. We tested the build at a wide variety of frame rates, resolutions and settings to really test it to its max. And a summary of all the results we gathered can be found on your screen now. In Battlefield 2042, we ran the game at 4K, high settings with DLSS enabled and set to performance mode. We managed to achieve 113 frames per second on average, with strong 90 and 99th percentile results. The good results carried through into games like Forza Horizon 5.2, where at 4K ultra settings we surpassed more than 90 FPS. We tested the frame rates in all of our games today with both MSI Afterburner's Riva Tuner and Nvidia FrameView to ensure maximum fairness and some really safe, consistent results that provided an accurate representation of the frame rates you guys could expect building this system at home. In Apex Legends, the results carried on really strong. 4K high settings, here we achieved over 120 frames per second. 121 to be precise at 4K is an incredible result and allowed us to witness a really butter smooth gaming experience. Moving on to COD Warzone, and this was another title where our mileage was very strong indeed. At 4K high settings, we pulled in more than 110 FPS, 112 to be specific, with strong 90 and 99th percentile results that showed little sign of deviance for our powerful 3080 rig. Finally, to wrap things up, we also tested out Fortnite at 1080p competitive settings. Here we pulled in just shy of 250 frames per second on average, a result I was personally really chuffed with, and one that certainly allows for a competitive gaming experience. All in all, this is a build that not only looks the part, but provides impressive performance too, and allows for a phenomenal gaming experience at 1080p, 1440p and 4K.